saw these animals. You stood there and watched them bloat. We saw them run in and just start chomping down. I mean, as soon as you started moving the fence or you got there, they started bawling, ready for a move, and away they went. And they started chomping down, and within 2 hours there was one, hopefully only one, but that got bloat. You tried to save it.
Did you feed your animals up a little bit before you turned them in there so they're not?
Yes and no. I mean, sometimes you did, sometimes you didn't, but it didn't matter. They could be full. What we observed, they could be full, but when you open that fence, they just went, because this was a learned behaviour over the summer. Moved them every 3 days, and these are bigger animals, and they'd been on this during the transition, because it starts off strong in grass, and by midsummer the temperate grass will slow down, and this clover is just, it's phenomenal. It grows a lot of feed, but it's pretty hot. So Debbie, I don't know where I was, but she had problems, and she called me on the cell phone, and she said, what am I going to do? And I said, let's digress a little bit, but she said, well, I'm going to spray it out. And so she went and got a sprayer from town, and four-wheeler spray, and she came back, and she'd never sprayed before. And I gave her a jug of 2,4-D, and she called me again on the cell phone. She said, how much should I put in? So she said, just try it. So she poured a bunch in. I said, you can't do any harm. And she races around here and sprays the whole lot, the whole pasture. It's 35 acres, I think it is. And about, I don't know, a few days later we went out there, and there wasn't many thistles in the whole pasture, but the clover didn't even look like she'd affected it, and it killed every thistle. So it's a pretty tough plant, this one.
Is that native clover?
Sorry?
Is that seeded or native?
Seeded? The question was, is it seeded clover? Yes. It's actually a New Zealand white clover that we seed. Oh, I've got it backwards now. Oh, I see the problem. Managing legumes. So we started playing around, and we said if we're going to grow legumes, and remember, I mean, I should say that I love legumes, and legumes grow really well indoors. We started feeding dry straw or dry grass along the edge of the field, and that's actually turned out to be a double whammy. I'll go to the next one, because I put this back. No, next one. Longer rotations. We started off with longer rotations, and that seemed to solve it. We went from 3-day rotations to 6-day rotations. And a 6-day rotation under rotational grazing requires 7 days of feed, or 8 days of feed, because they walk on, they waste more. So instead of making them eat exactly what they had, they wallowed around it for 7 days. And so on the day that we moved, they weren't really hungry. Their mentality was different when we moved them. We just sort of pulled the fence back, and they just sort of wandered on to the next piece. Production per acre probably went down, although I can't prove it. Production per animal probably went up, although I have no numbers to prove that. But the bloat went away. We also started putting soap in the water, and if Debbie was up here, she'd disagree with me. We'd go back and forth on this, and my theory is they're not going to take a drink before they, if they're crazy mentally to go eat, they're not going to go take a quick drink first. Although at the same time we could have them bloat, so maybe that had something to do with it. We also, about 2 years ago, I got an email from someone, and if you're familiar with feeding straw in the wintertime to cows, they tell you to put a protein supplement with that, and the protein will come and get in the rumen and help digest the straw. Well, the email I got here a couple of years ago said the reverse is true. If you look at that pasture, it's 25% protein. It said that a cow will actually burn fat and take starch out of its body to process the protein if your proteins are too high. And it was an interesting article, and so we thought, well, let's throw an old bale of hay out there and see what you saw how pretty that pasture was. Well, let's throw a bale of rough old CRP hay in the corner and see what happens. They ate, I don't know how many were in there, 100 or 200 head, but we did the numbers on it, and they were eating 10, 12 pounds per head per day of that dry feed, which was half their ration. And they were crowding around with this. So they weren't getting the whole ration, obviously, so they were mixing it. We weigh on a monthly basis. We weigh the calves through a system and individually weigh and put all their weights on a spreadsheet. And the larger calves in the past, anything over about 900 pounds, we haven't been able to put gain on during July and August in the heat. I don't think it's because it's hot, because I worked in the feedlots and they feed cattle in the middle of summer and their gains they're off a little bit, but they're not off that much. So it wasn't the heat, but it was the fact we had too much protein. So our gains were right up there. In fact, we finished cattle last year at 1,300. What was the biggest one? 1,350, I think was the biggest steer. Finished right off that pasture with a straw supplement on the side. Really think that's, I hate to feed in the middle of summer, but straw's $40 a ton, and it's penciled out. And then swathing. I wanted to show you this picture. That was that field that was at 4.1 this year. This is the stand of alfalfa. It's a pure stand of alfalfa. We swath this, and we only wait an hour or two after we swath it and turn the yearlings in. If you do the math, if this actually was a 3 ton before I swathed it, but if let's say it's a 2 ton and you do the math on 10 acres, that's 20 ton, that's a lot of feed. And we put there was probably 260 yearlings I think we put in here. And we ended up baling or silaging some of it because there's only a 15-acre field. And I think that's still there 10 days. There was just a ton of feed in the alfalfa field. So when you windrow like this I windrowed it that morning, turned the yearlings out, and to Debbie's credit, she gets our yearlings very tame. So I can just walk right up to them, and you can see them. They target the windrows. They'd rather eat a wilted alfalfa in the windrow 1 hour after you swath it than eat the green stuff around the edges. So they do fine. I've penciled the swathing cost per ton or per head, and it's not too much. But it is a way, if you go back to that spreadsheet, it said 4.1. It's right up there as one of it, and this is dryland. Complete dryland, and the Palouse will grow lots of it. It'll grow 5 ton under dryland on good ground. A few things we've learned about this is the alfalfa. If you look at the green leaf, it takes grass to grow grass, I was once told. So there's very few grasses that you can grub off to dirt that aren't shot. You've got to leave some leaf there. If you leave some leaf, it seems like they rebound quicker. And I'm talking about triticale was a good one. We used to graze a lot of triticale, and if we had a rule of thumb, if you left one leaf, you could come back 21 days later to a good stand of triticale. If you left no leaves, there was 30 or 35, I can't remember. So if Sunday's always the worst day under rotational grazing, or Monday is, because that's when you realise you should have moved them Sunday. And you come out and you go, whoops, it's a little far along, and that's how you learn some of this stuff. So this year we swathed our alfalfa. Last year I did a deal where I swathed half and didn't swath the other half, knowing that they'd eat the windrows first and then go into the rest of this alfalfa. And remember, this is a pure stand of alfalfa. There's no grass. Well, there's some weed grasses around the top side, but there's no orchard grass around there. What I noticed, we didn't have any bloat, which is what the goal was, but what I noticed is that the grazed alfalfa came back quicker. And I got to thinking that maybe the plant wasn't shocked as bad. So this year, we cut it long. So we tipped the header back as far as we could, and we left an awful lot. You can see this is, if you're taking this for hay, you fire your swather driver, because he left probably half a ton on the ground. And that alfalfa came right back. So it grew right back, really quick. In fact, we were in the